Alright, then let's do a changelog video. So, yesterday I posted the power level review of Edgar. Edgar's on my mind because I've been doing a lot of changes lately. To Edric, Spy Master of Trust. After I posted the video where I showed some of his combos, I discussed his strategy, why he's a weak deck when you just look at the creatures, but a strong deck when you look at it holistically. I started goldfishing and I realized I want him to go a little bit faster if possible. So what I did is I took out Miri Cat Warrior. She's good in the deck. Costs 3, low to the ground, 1, 2 green for 2/3 legendary Cat Warrior with first strike, forest walk, and vigilance. That's pretty good, but I decided I wanted something faster, so I took out Miri and I put in, let me see how quickly, yeah, there she is right there. I put in Saprazan Air. I've had her for a long time because I love the art, and don't worry about the noise, just the cat going crazy with his toys. You know, anybody who has cats knows how those little bastards can be. So I put in Saprazan Air. I've had her for a long time because I like the art. Let me take her out of the sleeve. These sleeves are not the best for showing off the cards. So she only cost 2. She cost 1 less than Miri. Of course, it's switching from blue to green. And whenever she's blocked, I may draw 3 cards. It's not when damage is dealt, so if I attack and she's blocked and she's going to die, if I have an active Trader and Rider, or I've got the mana online for Capsize, I can bounce her back to my hand. I can save her pretty readily. But if Edric's in play, my opponents have a choice between, okay, do they block her and give me basically a 2-mana Treasure Cruise? I'd say Ancestral Recall, but nobody wants to pay 2 for an Ancestral Recall. Paying 2 for a Treasure Cruise, that'd be pretty nice. Anyway. Or I draw 1 card. So the political consideration, the dilemma it gives my opponents, that I find that interesting. So Saprazan Air is going in for Miri Cat Warrior. And then I'm looking at the deck. Actually, I was looking at my Modern collection. In my Modern sideboard for one of my decks, I have Collector Oof. I only have 3, but I own a playset. And I'm looking at the other one. Activated abilities or artifacts can't be activated. So what does that do to me? The only thing it shuts off for me is Hope of Girapur. I cannot sacrifice it to force somebody not to cast sorceries and instants until my next turn, which is always a tough decision to make anyway. So that part doesn't matter. And Soul Ring. So it shuts off Hope of Girapur and Soul Ring. But what does it shut off for my opponents? It shuts off equipment. It shuts off mana rocks. It shuts off a lot of things. So I think he would do splendid work in my deck. He would be good for Edric. But what do I take out? Well, I was going through the deck and getting some ideas before I started the video so I could just jump to it. I don't want to take out anything that pushes me forward. I don't want to take out any mana creatures. I don't want to take out any of my small attackers. I could take out Lotus Cobra, but that gives me small advantages. Whenever I can't play a land, I get more mana. So I want to keep that. And Edric is tight. Edric is very well tuned. I didn't need to do anything to the deck at all, but I just decided to make a few changes because it's been years since I've made any fundamental changes to Edric, and at least a year since I made any changes at all. I thought about taking out Phantasmal Image because he's shaky, but I like the idea that if I have a Learn in play, or Alchemist Refuge, and I've got the mana to activate it and cast the Phantasmal Image, he's an excellent combat trick. Of course, he's shaky because all they have to do is target him and he goes away. But the possibilities with him are so extreme, I'm going to keep him. So let me get to what I decided to take out, and we can start the conversation in the comments about whether or not this is the right call. I'm going to take out Coiling Oracle. He has no evasion. He can't get through unless Tetsuya is in play. Of course, Tetsuya gives, let me show that to everybody that might not know who he is, because he is obscure. He is only played in a few decks. I've never seen him in play outside of Edric. Not saying that he doesn't get played elsewhere. I just haven't seen it, because for most people, playing a bunch of small creatures in Commander is not a good idea. It just depends on the deck on the Commander. There he is. Not Tetsuo, Tetsuko. So Tetsuko Umezawa. Creatures control with power or toughness 1 or less can't be blocked. So if he's in play, the Coiling Oracle is unblockable, but only if he's in play. Other than that, he has no evasion. When he comes into play, he's not really worth bouncing. He would only be worth bouncing if I had nothing better to do with a Trade-in Rider, which is highly unlikely. But when he comes into play, show off the top card of my library. If it's a land, put it in play. Otherwise, put it in my hand. That's really good, but I have to make tough decisions. And sometimes they're hard, because he has done good work in this deck. Of course, he is green-blue, so during my first few turns, if I want to do other things, or if I'm struggling to get one of the colors, I've noticed sometimes, even though there are 12 sources of pure blue and 11 sources of pure green, sometimes the deck just doesn't get blue that quickly. And it's annoying. But this guy, so Coiling Oracle, I get 1 extra card. Right? This guy, I shut down a lot of things my opponents have. And I don't hurt myself that bad. So for that reason, Coiling Oracle is coming out. Collect Roof is coming into play. And once I can acquire a foil one, I'll put this one back in my Modern collection and put the foil one in Edric. Right, so that's Edric. That's the changes to him. So let's get on with Edgar. Edgar Markov. I'm going to make one change to Edgar, and it's going to be pretty fast. And again, I expect to see a lot of discussion about it, because a lot of people really love the idea of this deck. A lot of people seem to like my build, and it's great hearing how other people built it. One of the lads that commented was talking about how my deck is, as I said, it's a black deck that splashes white and red, and his deck is got more red in it. I'm going to take out Patriarch's Bidding. The reason for that is, by the time my graveyard is interesting enough for me to cast this, for me to want to do this, it's also interesting enough for my opponents to want to take it out. And there's a lot of random blow up somebody's graveyard these days. It also costs 5, which I want to be casting vampires. That was a problem I had with the Bonder's Enclave a little while. Is I didn't want to spend 3 to tap it. I wanted to cast vampires. I didn't want to just draw another random card. I left it in the deck anyway in case I get to the point where I've got nothing better to do and I do want that card. So I'm going to take out Patriarch's Bidding as kind of a, because of the temptation my opponents have to annihilate my graveyard before I can cast it and use it. So that's going out, and I'm putting in a reset button. Elixir of Immortality. So I can just cast this, have it sitting aside, leave 2 mana open as much as possible. Of course, I'm going to want to be casting vampires, so that'll be tricky to have 2 open all the time. And if somebody's going to target my graveyard with a Bojuka Bog, Callous Blood Mage, anything that destroys my graveyard, I can say, yeah, I'll just shuffle it back in and gain 5 life for my trouble. So that's going into Edgar. So that's the change there. Okay, let's get on to the last changes. And this one you might find interesting for the reasons. So in Ikra Shidiqi, Sidar Kondo, I was listening to Moxman, his latest top 10 sales video. Necroskitter was #1 because there's a new combo with Massacre Girl, the new Massacre Girl from Murders at Karlov. And so Necroskitter has blown up. It's really not that hard of a cut. It was a hard cut previously because it's a pet card. It's never done really anything. It's never really worked. The best thing for me to do is leave it as a blocker. But that means he's not attacking and I'm not gaining life if I have Ikra Shidiqi out. He's not a threat unless I have Duran or Huatli out. So he's a 1/4 that costs double black, and I've never managed to get him to work. He's just there because he seemed like a very good card to have in the deck and a card that I should not take out. Until after watching Moxman's video, I went on to Magic Card Market and I saw, wow, he's gone up in price a lot. The spread is pretty high. Last time I checked, the spread was down to, I think, 20 euros between the high end and the bottom end. And there's not that many Eventide copies for sale. He's been reprinted, but anybody that wants an original Eventide so they get this nice full border around, the foils are not cheap. I listed mine for 42 euros, and I'll see what happens. So this is a financial trigger pushing this change. And what am I taking out for Necroskitter? Alms Collector. I had this for Arebo Roar of the Wild. I was building that and I decided to abandon Arebo. I decided to abandon the idea because one of my buddies, one of the lads I play with, he has a red-white equipment deck. So for me to build a green-white equipment deck, one, I already have a green-white deck, and I don't want to build any more decks in the near future that copy color combinations I already have. I want to branch out. Yeah, and you'll see more of that when I get closer to actually producing those decks. So breaking up Arebo, the only 20 cards I had for that deck are now open for other decks, and one of them is this Alms Collector. And one of the reasons Arebo is slow to build is I wanted very visually interesting cards. I wanted the more flashy versions of the cards. I love this Alms Collector. My Arebo is from Secret Lair, and that's another card that's amazingly expensive these days. I've got mine listed for 70 euros, and it's only 15 euros more than the bottom, and there are not that many for sale on MKM. Not that many at all. I think everybody's getting ready for Bloomborough. So Alms Collector, 3 and a white for a flashy kitty cat, 3/4. So he is in the right colors, or she, probably a she. Look at those eyes. So she's in the right colors. Only takes one colored mana to cast her, so pretty quick to get out and play, fairly reliable. 3/4, higher toughness than power, on theme. If an opponent will draw 2 or more cards, instead they and I each draw a card. Okay. Now, in most of the games I play, my opponents are not drawing a lot of extra cards during the turn. It's random, it happens, but it's not reliable. It's not all the time. So she's kind of could be good effect, but if nothing else, a 3/4 flashy body for 4 mana. That's not too bad. Nice little combat trick. As opposed to Necroskitter, which has no flash, has an extra black pip in him, and just it doesn't work. Because the deck is not built around Wither, the deck is not built around this. If I had something like a grappling hook where I could equip him and force one of my opponent's creatures to block him, that would be good, but I don't have a grappling hook in the deck, and including it for one card just seems like a waste. Wasted slot. So Alms Collector is going into Ikra Shidiqi, Sidar, Kondo, Jimra. I'll see how she does. The other thing I want to do is I want to put a Winding Canyons into Ikra Shidiqi, Sidar, Kondo, Jimra. The problem is, what do I take out? And the main reason is because I have Seedborn Muse. If I have Seedborn Muse, then Winding Canyons is even better, because during my opponent's turns, I'll untap with him, so I can tap Winding Canyons, get that flash trigger, and I can start playing creatures as instants. The question is what to take out. High Market, that's proved itself last time when one of my opponents went to exile my Olran Frostfang, and I sent him to the High Market instead so I can get him back. Palisade Giant, no. Double Life, no. Death Star, no. So what to take out? And I don't want to just take out a land, especially this beautiful Rainbow Veil that has caused a lot of discussion. I like it. It would have to be a land that produces colorless, because it's not a land I'm going to be using for mana. It's a land I'm going to be using for a trick. And I did spend some time trying to think of what I should take out, and I just couldn't think of anything. Tower of the Magistrate, that has well proved itself. If any of you do not have a copy of Tower of the Magistrate, I highly recommend you get a hold of one and just play with it, test it out. It's great. Somebody attacks you, the creature, with a bunch of equipment. Okay, gains protection from equipment, and it drops them. It drops its swords. That commander has Commander's Plate, and I want to kill it. Commander's Plate falls off because this is a colorless source, and I can kill that commander. So what do I take out? I'm probably not going to figure it out on this video. Cabal Coffers, I could take it out. The deck really doesn't need that much black, and this really only works with Urborg out, but I have ways of getting Urborg out. So again, it's what hurts me the least to lose, and I just can't really think of anything. Oh, by the way, Meekstone, last time I played this as a group hug card. So I played it, and the guy that had the, I can't remember what, it's the legendary kobold, I think Rogak, son of Rogath, that cost 0. So Equipment Guy had him in play with that big-ass 10-10 hammer on him. So you had a commander with a 10-10 hammer. Well, he's not attacking anymore. And nobody else is playing anything really big, getting anything big out. So they weren't too upset with me for playing the Meekstone. This is kind of pain in the ass. Maybe Daxos. Daxos is in here for the life gain, and because if his toughness gets high enough with Huatli or Duran out, he becomes even more of a deadly threat. I don't want to take out my instant destruction, Hand of Justice. I could take him out. Tap 3 target white creatures, destroy any target creature. Because he costs 6. Yeah. I'll look through one last time, and then I'll just shut this off because I'm starting to get boring. To Just let the comment section decide. Oh yes, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out a Sky Shard Claim in favor of a Nature's Lore. Yes, this gets me 2 forest cards. For 4, Sky Shard Claim only gets me 1, but it costs 2, so I can cast it earlier in the game. I can cast it sooner. I will still leave Temptation of Discovery, because that's a great card. This is pretty good in this deck too. Your Mama's Reach. Look, it's Your Mama's Reach. Crush and Restore. I don't know. It's down to what is the least painful thing to take out in order to shove that Winding Canyons in there, and is it worth it? I could take out Debt to the Deathless because this is kind of a instant win card. Let me do that. I'll take out Debt to the Deathless. I'm probably going to regret this, but maybe not. So I'm upping my mana count, land count, putting in Winding Canyons, taking out Debt to the Deathless. Each opponent loses 2 times X life. I gain life equal to the life loss this way. Fair enough. If I have Rock's Faith Mender, that would be double to the 2 times X life. So if I, and again, this is another reason I have Urborg in play. So this is another reason, or Cabal Coffers. This is arguing for me to take Cabal Coffers out. So if I cast this for 10, well, X is 6. Each opponent loses 12 life, and if there's 2, so that's 24. I gain 24 life. And if I have Rock's Faith Mender, I gain 48 life. That's a hell of a swing. But it's one of those cards that kind of feels dirty anyway. And I've got so many life gain creatures, it kind of doesn't matter. Last game I played with Ikra, Shidiqi, Sidar, Kondo, I got up to 113 life based on combo and based on life gain creatures. And I survived a 73-point attack from one of my opponents, which, since I was at 113, knocked me back down to 40. So they put me back down to my starting life total. That was a interesting coincidence. Anyway, let me quit rambling, get this posted, and see what I can do.